Hi, this is Miriam from GrannyKeto.com. The last few episodes, I've been trying to explain to you how to start to become more independent and not have to measure and track and weigh everything that you eat. Learning about portion sizes, learning about the difference between the grams in the weight and the grams of protein or carbohydrates or fat a food might have. So I wanted to say that you have to start somewhere. And so as you're learning this, there are very, not complicated, but there are very detailed ways to track, right down to the easiest. We reach, which is a book. I'll talk about this in a minute. But there are many, many online trackers, and I just went through some of the top ones that got very, very good reviews. Some of them I will talk about, but let me just start with one of them, Calorie King. If you're going to keep a paper diary, then Calorie King is great. You just go in and you put in the food. It's a huge database, and you put in your portion size. Let's say for something like onions, there's maybe 12 or 15 choices, like a half a cup chopped or something diced or something sliced, or by the weight, by the gram, by the tablespoon, by the pounds, this sort of things. There's a lot of choices. Chances are you're not going to have something that you're not going to find on Calorie King. And that sort of thing you just take, you put it in a notebook, you're good to go. Then also, I will start with the book actually. I have Dr. Atkins' Carbohydrate Gram Counter, and this is not particularly new. Let me see. There's no up. 2002 is its last publication. So I don't think that there's any corrected information, but there might be food items that a newer version would have that, that maybe this one didn't. Plus, it has some manufactured food that might not be around anymore. But this is very good. And there's a whole thing on teaching you about. Oh, well, I'll read it to you. I can see the reflection isn't good. But it's sort of informative because it talks about a brief look at the four phases of the Atkins nutritional approach. Keto is sort of Atkins induction phase, so this is like the grandfather here, and so it's sort of good to learn about that, but we can skip that. There's portion size guidelines. It gives you food categories. It gives you dining out. And of course, you're not going to the restaurant with your scale, but, a regular plate of spaghetti or French restaurants, it tells you, let's say in French restaurants, choose, and it gives you the list instead of this. So it gives you general guidance on eating out, but when you look into the foods exactly, you can find the food that you're looking for. So when you're looking up the foods in here, it does give you the carbs and the fiber. So, and then it gives you a column for net carbs. So it already did the math for you. And doing net carbs is taking the carbs and minusing out the fiber. So the math is done. So there you go. And then it gives you the proteins and the fats and the calories if you're counting calories. Keto is not a calorie counting diet. Ultimately, they matter. I mean, if you're just sitting on the sofa watching television and you never move, somebody else puts your shoes on, ties them for you. I mean, you just don't do anything. Then yes, you need to watch what you're eating. But if you're a regularly active person, you don't have to worry that much about calories until you hit a wall, and then we'll talk about calories further on. But anyway, Atkins does give you the calories. Now, what I did with my book, okay, I got the little Post-it notes. Oh, I had them here to show. Oh, these little kind of notes. And what I did is to make it easier. All right, I did eggs and cheese. This one is milk, cream, and butter. This one is fats and oils, fish and shellfish, beef, pork, and lamb, and nuts. What I didn't bother outlining are the cereals and the breads, which is at the front of this. And then I ran out of space, so at the top I did vegetables. So this became almost as quick as going to the computer and looking things up. I like to do things by hand. I make a real connection between my mind and the hand and the paper. I do things on the computer, but somehow I'm more connected with paper and pencil. And if you're that type of person, then this might be the way for you to go. Also, when you're eating out or grocery shopping and you don't want, I mean, everybody has their phones nowadays and you can look up Calorie King, but I love throwing this in my pocket and this is what I have. So this is how you're going to get started if you don't want to start with one of the computer programs. Okay, so we have that. The next easiest thing up is a yes/no list. And I want to talk a little bit. Dr. Westman, Eric Westman, who is really a very strong figure in the keto community and a pioneer with a lot of this, wrote a book, and it's called A Low Carbohydrate Ketogenic Manual. No sugar, no starch diet. Well, I have to tell you, when I started keto, I bought mine 2 years ago for about $4.95. It's a tiny, it's like the size of this piece of paper, and it's so like maybe 50 pages or something. There's nothing to it except what he tells you to do. Well, I looked on Amazon today because I said, well, only $4.90. I couldn't find mine. I looked all through the bookcase. I started packing for the new house that we don't have yet, but I started packing and I said, well, maybe I packed it. I can't find it. It's about $4.95. So I went to Amazon. I said, I'll buy another copy. I want to tell you, there are 22 used from $63.08 to new. Hold on to your hats. $1,241.02. I bought this about 18 to 24 months ago for $4.95. I don't know what happens, but forget it. But extracted from this book is something called page 4. It has nothing to do with the page 4 that's in the book. He wrote a white paper that he gives. He's way beyond this now, but he started this at Duke University as a bariatric surgeon, and this is the program that they gave their clients. And so on a mimeographed handout that he sent out to him, that he gave out to his clients, to the people that were in the program, on page 4 was the yes/no list. And so it became known as Dr. Westman's page 4. Okay, so if you see that posted anywhere, that's his page 4. Now, it's a very simple yes/no list, and people have had wild success on this. They just say, listen, I know what I can eat. I know what I can't eat. I don't have to weigh. I don't have to measure. I just eat it. This is true to a point. He has some limits. I think cheese limit is, and the limits change once in a while, but the cheese limit was either 2 ounces or 4 ounces, and the cream, including sour cream, and cream cheese, was maybe a 4 tablespoon limit. I don't have that list in front of me. I do have it, but I didn't pull it out for this because I knew I was going to talk about the book, not the list. And there's no nuts on there. Now, it's not that nuts are not ketogenic, but he wrote this list for his population. And he felt, and I talked about triggers in my last video, saying if I make a cake and have one slice and put it in the freezer, I will eat the rest of that cake frozen if I'm triggered to eat that cake. So he found that his patients were very triggered by nuts. And so he said, I'm going to make it easy for everybody, and I'm going to say no nuts. So the reason I'm bringing this up is that some people don't do very well with a limited yes/no list. And it also limits if you like to bake or you like to make recipes and it's a tablespoon of almond flour, but almonds aren't on the list, or you don't want, let's say, cream, so you want to put coconut milk or coconut oil is allowed. I don't know if almond milk is allowed, but but the point is, it's very, very black and white. So you can track by hand or look up Calorie King, or you can use a yes no list like Westman. But what I want to talk very quickly is the online things that you can use. Now, Calorie King will just give you the nutritional information. It's not a tracking program. These are some of the top tracking programs: Carb Manager, MyFitnessPal, Lose It, Spark People, My Food Diary, Fat Secret, and Chronometer. Now, most of these have apps, or you can just go directly into the website and use them. They all are free and they all have a paid component. Usually, the paid component gives you the ability to go ahead and track next month's meals. Most of them, all whether it's even if it's a free one, they all have recipe things, so you can put in a recipe and get your macros. I'm not sure. I haven't used all of them. I've tested Carb Manager, MyFitnessPal, Lose It, Chronometer. I just, it was too confusing me right off the bat, so I didn't use it. And I think I used Spark People. So I can't speak to all of them, but a lot of them, MyFitnessPal I know, and Carb Manager specifically, because I've used those a lot and I've used those with clients, allow you to put in your macros. So you put in your weight and it gives you a calorie count, which we can sort of not worry about right now. But what you can do is you can set it so that you can say you want 5% of your calories to come from carbs. And what you can do is you always start with 5%. But if you're going for the 20 total, depending on your weight, because your weight will determine the calories, you want to move the little thing up and down until you get to 20 total carbs. That might be 4.5% for some, it might be 6.5% for others, but you start there. You put in 5% and see if it gives you the 20 total carb. Then you put in 20% protein, and you go up and down from there. You want to start at 50. No way you should be eating less than 50. Most women can handle 80. Men can handle 100. If you are a heavy exerciser, you can handle more. I'm going to do a separate video on protein, but start with that 20% and see what it gives you. I remember I started with 50 and I was always hungry, and I went up a little by little by little, and I think I settled at about 60 or 65, and it didn't cause my weight loss to stall, and I was happy as a clam. I talked with somebody else and she said, "Are you kidding? 80 should be your floor." So I'm experimenting with the protein. We'll talk about that, but don't go lower than 50, and don't be afraid to go 65 or 70 if you're a woman, 85, 100 if you're a man. You can handle it. If you're extremely insulin resistant, that's another story. But for average issues, for average health issues, you're okay with those amounts of protein. Then what's ever left is your fat macro, and that is 75. So if you're going to go 5 for carbs, 20 for protein, what does that leave you? 75 for fat. But as you play a little bit with the carb and the protein, that'll have you play with fat, okay? Now, you do not have to eat every single piece of fat that you're allowed, but don't skimp either, okay? Very briefly, because I don't want this to be another very long YouTube video, but the point is, as you become fat adapted, which means your body learns how to burn fat and how to function on ketones, you don't have to be afraid of the fat. There's a school that says if you're eating fat, you can't burn body fat. That's not exactly true. So don't fear the plate fat. Don't be a glutton, but go ahead and eat that fat. Don't forget, there's only 4 calories per gram of carbohydrates. If you're eating 20, that's only 80 calories. If you're eating 60 grams of protein, that also is 4 calories per gram. So 60 times 4 is 240. Add the 240 and the 80, and you get 320. Where is the rest of that calories going to come from? You have to eat fat. Don't worry about it. If you're starting out, that's the trick. And the whole thing about Eric Westman's list, by the way, is that really he was just having you count carbs. The fat and the protein and will take care of themselves. And the reason I say that is as you get more and more into keto, you're going to be less and less hungry. So you're not going to want that 1 pound ribeye steak. I started with that with the fat, and I put butter on it. Now my husband makes a steak that's a pound, and I cut it in half right off the bat, and sometimes I don't fit. Maybe I eat 2/3 of that. You don't eat as much as you become fat adapted. So for now, count your carbs, whether it's this way or Calorie King or using one of these. If you really want to keep track of protein, keep track of fat, but all you want to do is limit your carbs, and there's a lot of ways to do it. It doesn't have to be on the computer. Get yourself a nice notebook. I have a special pen. It's my keto pen. It never gets lost. It stays with the notebook. I mean, this is a production. Treat yourself to some nice things. So anyway, that's the story with tracking. Don't get obsessed with the macros. It's okay to watch your macros. I mean, you don't want to be eating 200 grams of protein and 500 grams of carbohydrates. I mean, you really do want to pay attention to your macros. The problem comes when you start obsessing. Okay, remember the story I told you that I brought a food scale to the grocery store and I took russet potatoes and I put them on the scale and I made sure they were exactly 10 ounces? How much more obsessed can you be than that? Keto spells freedom. Take advantage of that freedom. Don't go crazy with the macros. At the very bottom level, invest in this. $4.95. Oh, unless it's like Westman's. Maybe the next time I go to Barnes and Noble, it will be $1,241.02. I hope not. The Westman book isn't any bigger than this. That's the funny part. But anyway, neither here nor there. So anyway, enjoy keto, feel free with keto. Come to grannyketo.com and sign up for the free guide. It's called Dancing with Keto. It will teach you how to make this a lifestyle, how to do it from your heart, to finally eat like a normal person. It's free. Come up and sign up for it. And these are the ones to start with. I think you'll be happy with any of these. The apps, most of the apps are free, I believe. It's just that when you get into the more complicated things that it offers you, that's where you pay the money. But otherwise, don't worry about it. All right, listen, thank you very much. Nice to talk with you.